Steve Ballmer made Microsoft incredibly rich. He almost made it irrelevant. While Microsoft printed cash at a scale few companies in history ever achieved, something inside the company slowly tightened. The numbers looked perfect. Revenue climbed, margins held, cash piled up. From the outside, it looked unstoppable. But inside, the atmosphere was changing. Innovation didn't stop suddenly, it slowed, quietly. Big risks started to feel unnecessary when the existing machine was producing so much money. That's how comfort sneaks in. As profits grew, caution followed. Decisions that once felt bold began to feel dangerous. Experiments needed more approvals. Failure carried heavier consequences. Over time, curiosity gave way to caution, not because people stopped caring, but because incentives changed behavior. Risk avoidance disguised as discipline. Employees quickly learned what earned approval: protect what already exists, avoid threatening revenue, keep the team safe, hit the targets. In that environment, playing it safe feels smarter than exploring something new. And culture, the invisible engine behind every long-lasting business, began to turn against itself. Culture isn't what leaders say, it's what people learn to avoid. At Microsoft, internal competition intensified. Teams fought for resources. Performance reviews stacked people against each other. Collaboration became costly. Sharing ideas felt risky. Winning internally mattered more than winning externally. The company was still powerful, but it was no longer curious. This is where most people get confused. They assume innovation dies when money disappears. In reality, innovation often dies when money becomes too predictable, when success removes urgency, when stability removes hunger. Microsoft didn't lack talent, it lacked permission to fail. While the company defended its dominance in Windows and Office, the world outside moved faster. Mobile computing emerged, search became behavior shaping, platforms replaced products, and Microsoft, for all its strength, hesitated. Not because leaders were blind, because the system punished risk. The most dangerous part? There was no crisis, no sudden collapse, no revenue shock, no alarm loud enough to demand change. Cash flow covered every mistake. And that's the trap. When money keeps arriving, problems feel theoretical. When profits remain strong, warnings are easy to ignore. Growth doesn't vanish overnight, it erodes quietly, while reports still look healthy. This happens in personal finance too. High income can hide bad habits. Steady paychecks can delay hard decisions. Comfort can mask fragility. Microsoft's culture didn't break, it calcified. The machine kept running, but it stopped learning at the same speed as the world around it. And by the time the cost became visible, entire waves of opportunity had already passed. That's the danger of success without renewal. Nothing explodes, nothing fails dramatically, it just tightens until growth becomes memory instead of momentum. This is the paradox of Steve Ballmer. He was one of the most loyal executives in Silicon Valley history, one of the most energetic CEOs ever to lead a Fortune 500 company, and one of the most misunderstood leaders in modern business. By the end of this story, you'll understand how Steve Ballmer's obsession with cash flow, margins, and defense kept Microsoft extraordinarily profitable, and how that same discipline quietly became a ceiling. You'll see how protecting revenue can feel responsible while slowly narrowing vision. You'll understand why Microsoft never faced a dramatic collapse under Ballmer, yet still lost entire eras of opportunity without ever triggering an emergency. Mobile computing rose, search became behavior shaping, platforms replaced products, and Microsoft, for all its strength, hesitated. Not because leaders were blind, because the system punished risk. You'll also see why this pattern isn't unique to Microsoft. High earners fall into it. Founders fall into it. Households fall into it. When income is strong and bills are paid, urgency disappears. Comfort replaces curiosity, and opportunity cost quietly compounds in the background. By the time change becomes unavoidable, the advantage is gone. This story will show you how Ballmer's leadership preserved Microsoft's financial strength while shrinking its appetite for reinvention, and why the company's eventual revival required not new assets, but a complete reset in behavior and culture. Most importantly, you'll walk away understanding a hard financial truth most people never confront. Profit can keep you alive, but growth requires discomfort. And when comfort becomes the goal, opportunity is often the price you pay. You'll also learn why this exact mistake still traps high earners, founders, and households in 2026, confusing financial safety with long-term freedom. This isn't a tech story, it's a story about incentives and culture, and how the wrong metrics can slowly choke growth without ever triggering a crisis. Nothing breaks all at once, nothing collapses dramatically, the numbers still look good, the profits still arrive, but something vital starts to shrink. That's the danger of success measured the wrong way. Steve Ballmer's story begins far from Silicon Valley hype in Detroit, Michigan in 1956, a city built on factories, systems, and efficiency. His father worked as a manager at Ford, one of the most disciplined industrial machines in American history. This wasn't a household driven by creativity or chaos, it was driven by structure. Discipline mattered, results mattered, numbers mattered. From an early age, Ballmer absorbed the logic of large organizations, how processes scale, how output is measured, how performance is rewarded. This wasn't about dreaming big, it was about executing well. Ballmer excelled academically. He didn't drift, he didn't rebel, he performed. That path took him to Harvard University, where something important happened. Not a breakthrough idea, but a relationship that would define his future. That's where he met Bill Gates. Their bond wasn't built on rivalry, it wasn't built on flash or ego, it was built on reliability. Gates saw in Ballmer something rare, someone who could turn vision into execution, chaos into order, ideas into operations. Ballmer wasn't the inventor in the room, he was the operator. He understood systems, he understood incentives, he understood how to make organizations move in one direction instead of 10. That skill would become Microsoft's backbone. When Ballmer joined Microsoft, his role wasn't to imagine the future, it was to make sure the present paid for it. Pricing models, licensing structures, sales discipline, cost control. These aren't glamorous words, but they are the reason Microsoft became a financial powerhouse. This is where the story starts to bend, because the same traits that build dominance can quietly create rigidity. When organizations reward efficiency over experimentation, behavior changes. People protect what's measured, they avoid what's risky. Over time, creativity gives way to caution, not because anyone is lazy, but because incentives demand it. Ballmer didn't design this to fail, he designed it to win by the rules that mattered at the time.
And that's the lesson hiding here. The most dangerous systems don't look broken, they look optimized. They generate results, they reward compliance, they suppress risk, until the world changes. And by the time the metrics catch up, momentum is already gone. Steve Ballmer didn't inherit a failing company, he inherited a winning machine. What happened next wasn't collapse, it was something more subtle and far more common: stagnation disguised as success. Ballmer was not a visionary coder, he was a systems thinker. After briefly attending Stanford Business School, Ballmer dropped out to join Microsoft in 1980, becoming the company's first business manager. This mattered. From the beginning, Ballmer's role wasn't invention, it was execution. He focused on pricing, licensing, distribution, and operational efficiency. While Gates focused on product, Ballmer focused on monetization. That partnership built Microsoft's early empire. Windows licensing created recurring revenue. Office locked in enterprises. Cash flow became predictable. Margins exploded. Ballmer didn't just help Microsoft grow, he helped it stabilize. And stability is seductive. When Steve Ballmer became CEO in 2000, Microsoft was already dominant. Windows ran most of the world's computers. Office was embedded in businesses everywhere. Revenue surged, profits piled up. Under Ballmer, Microsoft became a cash machine. This wasn't accidental. Ballmer protected margins aggressively. He optimized licensing deals. He defended enterprise relationships. He fought competitors fiercely, especially Linux, Google, and later Apple. From a financial standpoint, this worked. Microsoft's revenue and profits grew massively during Ballmer's tenure. The company returned tens of billions of dollars to shareholders through dividends and buybacks. Cash flow stress? Non-existent. Liquidity? Massive. Balance sheet? Fortress-like. But here's the twist. Cash flow didn't translate into innovation, and that's where the culture began to bend inward. Ballmer ran Microsoft like a fortress, defensive, metric-driven, internally competitive. Performance reviews stacked employees against each other. Risk became dangerous. Failure became political. This is where the math changes ownership. When incentives reward protection instead of creation, behavior follows. Teams optimized for not losing instead of discovering. Managers avoided bold bets. Internal competition replaced curiosity. Microsoft still made money, but momentum slowed. The company missed mobile while Apple redefined it. It underestimated Google while search and ads reshaped the internet. It treated the iPhone as a novelty. This wasn't stupidity, it was risk aversion disguised as discipline. Have you ever played financial defense for so long that opportunity passed you by? Drop your comment, because households do this too. They avoid risk so aggressively that inflation, opportunity cost, and time quietly erode their future. Opportunity cost is the price of saying no. Microsoft said no to Android, no to early mobile dominance, no to consumer platforms. Each no looked reasonable at the time. That's the danger. Ballmer protected existing revenue streams, Windows and Office, instead of cannibalizing them early. From a short-term finance view, that made sense. From a long-term wealth view, it was expensive. This mirrors personal finance perfectly. People protect current comfort instead of future leverage. They avoid short-term discomfort and pay long-term costs. Ballmer didn't lack intelligence, he lacked cultural flexibility. And culture is a financial variable most people never model. Steve Ballmer stepped down as CEO in 2014. Microsoft didn't collapse, it transformed. Under Satya Nadella, culture shifted from defense to learning. Collaboration replaced internal warfare. Cloud computing became the new engine. Azure grew into a massive recurring revenue business. Same company, same assets, different behavior. This proves a critical money lesson. Systems don't fail first, behavior does. Ballmer later bought the Los Angeles Clippers, applying lessons learned. Different arena, different rules, same discipline, but with flexibility. He remained wealthy, but Microsoft became adaptive again only after the cultural reset. Steve Ballmer's story maps cleanly to money behavior. People who retire wealthy track cash flow monthly. Everyone else hopes math is kind later. Smart money users leverage assets. Others get leveraged by obligations. Ballmer optimized Microsoft for safety. Nadella optimized it for growth. Both matter, but sequence matters more. You stabilize first, then you adapt, then you grow. Most households stop at safety. If you see yourself becoming wealthy someday, drop your wealth role model in the comments. Steve Ballmer didn't fail, he over-succeeded at the wrong metric. He built one of the most profitable corporate structures in history, but profitability without renewal eventually becomes fragile. This story isn't about blaming Ballmer, it's about understanding how money incentives shape behavior. Cash flow keeps you alive. Culture determines how long you last. If this story made you rethink safety, growth, or long-term wealth, share it with someone who needs to hear it. We post real finance stories every single day. Subscribe so you never miss the next one that could save you money or make you money. And remember this, safety preserves wealth. Adaptation multiplies it. Subscribe, like, and drop your comment. Catch you in the next story.